Hello, I'm Bud McCord. I'm here in Brazil, South America. We're together this morning again to look for answers that satisfy. I've become convinced in my own life that every time I end up with some sort of a question that I can't seem to resolve, it makes me internally disturbed. I like to get to the bottom line. I think that's pretty natural for most human beings. But you want to be careful that you get to the answers that are ones that are going to be in harmony with reality. And as believers in Jesus Christ, we learn to harmonize our reality, our life with the reality revealed in Jesus Christ. And we look for that truth that Jesus manifested time and time again until we can rest in that truth. And then we become free from reacting, and then inspired to act. We've been looking at questions about God the Father, and yesterday the question that we worked on was, what in the world is God doing? What in the world is God doing? God is constantly accused of being either incompetent or cruel. Have you ever been accused of something that you have not done? Have you ever been accused of being something that you're not? All of us have had an experience like that. And it's very easy when we are falsely accused to turn into a reaction. But one of the things that we know from the scriptures is that God is not a reaction to human beings. He is a continuous action for us, not against us. Now, I know that a lot of people, especially people who do not yet believe in Jesus Christ, would be shocked by that statement because they've already made up their mind that God is doing some things that God is not doing, and God is being something that God is not being. But for those of us who have begun to rest in Jesus Christ, we believe in Jesus, then we become released from being reactionary creatures to be loving actors and actions together with God. It's really a beautiful truth. And so this question for today is kind of in a negative, but trying to get to a positive. What is God the Father not doing? And remember that I refer to him as Father because in the scriptures, the masculine always represents the action of love. First love. We love him because he first loved us. So when we talk about God the Father, right there, a lot of people say, Father, he's cruel and he's trying to control my life and it's a patriarchy against us and all those things we hear today. That is not what the scriptures is saying. He is the one who loves first. So what in the world is God the Father not doing? And here's the answer. I've already alluded to it. He is not reacting to humanity. He is not sitting up in heaven angry at humanity. If he wanted to stop anything that humanity is doing that he does not agree with or cannot support, he could zero everything out in a second and start all over again. If God was in a reactive mode, we'd already be gone. In Christ, if we watch Jesus as he comes into the world, is born and begins to grow up and finally begins his ministry, if you are an honest reader of the Gospels, you could never conclude that Jesus was in a reactive mode. Now remember that Jesus, is the revelation of God. You remember when he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father? And the conclusion the Apostle John said was, we saw him, the Word that became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. Now the truth is not against you. The truth is for you. And grace is not a statement of a word that is against. It's not a reaction against. Now, it took me a long time to understand why so many people get upset with God. They get upset with God. And that is because they honestly believe that he is acting in a way to limit human experience or to rule over human beings for some need that he has to satisfy within himself to be in control. And they look at the Old Testament and they watch God and they see God as a reaction against rather than see God as an action for. One of the things that I try to help, especially young adults who are beginning in discipleship or they've maybe just become a Christian, is to say to them, when you're reading the Old Testament, look at God like you would look at a great physician, a surgeon, a caregiver, a healer. Now remember that a great physician and a healer and one who wants to cure has to be in the middle of a lot of ugly sickness. And they go in the direction of that sickness, not as a reaction to it, but as an action toward it. So in the Old Testament, people see God as cruel and destructive, and they'll say, I'll never believe in a God like that. But you need to understand this, is a good doctor is not reacting against the patient. The good doctor is doing what is true and what will heal. So when you read the Old Testament, you'll see God acting in favor of human beings. Now, the lie of the devil to Adam and Eve was that he was trying to limit them and make them less. And the devil said there was a way for them to be actually like God. The only problem is that human beings without God cannot sustain love because we become immediately reactive to the things that are around us. Just look at Cain when he killed Abel. You get a picture of the difference between an action and a reaction. Now, I want to read Psalm chapter 1 and listen to this very carefully because it's a distinction between people who thought God was negative and limiting, and they were just totally unwilling to align themselves with the God of the Old Testament. But there was another group of people that saw God as the action of love, and they wanted to cooperate and to become one with that. It says this is Psalm 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. The ungodly are those people who think that God is a reaction, that do not want to have anything to do with God because they've already found out in their heart that they think that God is up to stuff that they don't want to be a part of. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by rivers of living water that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Now it's interesting that the scriptures here say, the psalm says here, that a godly person, a person who believes that God has good intentions toward us, will meditate on the laws of God. What does that mean? It means that they will meditate on that which is able to be in harmony with God and that which is not in harmony with God. Every time you hear the word law, we always think that's negative, but there's a very positive sense to the law. The law tells me when and where and how I sin against others. Now, to sin against others means that I have stopped the flow of love. Now, love is not a reaction. Love is an action. And when I'm sinning, I'm turning into a reaction. I'm turning into a reaction. When I'm loving, I'm in action. I'm going with the flow of love. Now, it's interesting that if they meditate on the law day and night, and they are blessed like someone who lives next to a river, and they're planted next to the river. Well, the river's not a reaction. The river's an action. We need to be aligned with the action of God. And what is the action of God? The action of God is continuous love. Now, when Jesus comes on the scene in the New Testament, in the Gospels, if you look at the life of Jesus over the 33 years that he was in this world, and especially the 3 years of his ministry with his disciples, he kept them walking. Don't miss that point. He didn't take them into a building. He didn't take them to a school. He kept them walking with him. And he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. I always thought that was an interesting thing. Why would I want to go fish for men? Well, I like to fish. I've done a lot of fishing in my life, and I enjoy it. And, you know, when a fisherman is fishing to provide food, he is catching fish not because he's angry at fish. He wants to take the fish and make them useful in the lives of people. Now, if God wants me to be a fisher of men, he wants me to bring men and women to a place where they feed other human beings, that they give their life away. Greater love has no man to this than he lay down his life for his friends. So the idea is that when we evangelize a person and we bring them into union with God, that person becomes food, bread, life. That's not a reaction, it's an action in the lives of others. That's why when we talk about Peter and Jesus said to him, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Remember that story? Feed my sheep, feed my sheep. Well, that's what Peter gave his life to after that, because he saw that Jesus had been an action of continuous provision of what people need to live not as a reaction, but as an action. Now, when you are reading Psalm 23, for example, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and you read that and you see God as the shepherd, he is for the sheep, and he is with the sheep, and they are moving through the life experience together. But the sheep have a function, and that is they are to bring satisfaction from their lives that they don't spend on themselves only, but are given away even as sacrifices. It's really interesting that in Romans chapter 12, we're called upon to present ourselves to God a living sacrifice. Okay, that is an action. That is not a reaction. So in this search of ours for answers that satisfy, one of the most important things when we're talking to anybody about what's going on in the Bible is if you were to ask the person, when you think of God in the Old Testament especially, or even in the New Testament, do you see God as a reaction or an action? Do you see God as for us or against us? Do you see God as one who's bringing a cure to us, like a good physician who is having to operate on us in order for us to survive, or give to us some sort of chemotherapy so that we can come out of our illness? How do you see God? Now, I can tell you this, that the enemy of our souls, Satan, wants you to see God as a reaction. He's upset, he's mad, he's limiting, he won't let human beings express themselves. That's a false accusation. Look at Jesus and you see the action that God actually is. He is the competent love. He is the source of the reality that satisfies. And for those of us who are believers, we have to get up every morning, literally every morning, and make sure that we are ready to be an action of love and not a reaction against people. We're not here to be a reaction against people. We're here to reveal the grace and truth that Jesus revealed and is to this day. Now that he's in us, then we can reveal that today. So we shouldn't be out in the world today reacting. We should be in the world acting. And if you follow Jesus, he's going to keep you walking and keep you moving so that you never forget, I am to be an action, not a reaction. I hope that helps a bit, helps me to start this day with these thoughts. So hopefully something will be useful to you in the action of your life today. God bless you.